if it looks real, it is real. Is it? Isn't it? Right? Because in the end, it's not about if CGI is real or not. If it's more, does the film, the photo, the campaign that you're publishing actually talk to your client and offer a solution for what they might be trying to solve?
Welcome to What Gets Measured, a NinjaCat podcast about marketing, performance management, metrics, and effectiveness. Because what gets measured gets managed. I'm your host, Jake Sanders. Faruk Heplevent is the founder and CEO of the Scope CGI studio and has been working in automotive marketing for nearly 2 decades. In that time, Faruk has worked on global campaigns for brands like Mercedes-Benz, Tesla, and BMW, and he's here today to talk about harnessing the power of visual impact in marketing. Faruk, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for showing up all the way from Hamburg. So let's just start with an overview of your work at the Scope. How did you get into automotive marketing originally? And what are some of the latest projects in tech that has excited you for the future?
Well, my heritage is photography. So, back in the 90s, I assisted photographers and learned to craft. And the last one I was working with was a good, very renowned car photographer. So that's, how I got into car photography, and worked as a car photographer up until 2006, 2007, still on set. That was around the time when CGI started pushing into that market. So I looked at it, it took away jobs like AI does today. And I said, well, what is this thing that is, making clients think it's a better solution? And started looking at it, open scope, started with retouching mainly, and then moved into, CGI car work, obviously, because it was a market that we knew. And pretty early in the process, we learned that, the big studios that had contracts with the car manufacturers, there was nothing we could really challenge, but we were really good at creating images, lighting, working on the details, and building sets and locations for pictures first before we started going into film. Then over the course, for us, the launch area of the whole market became very, very interesting, because that was, CGI was unchallengeable there, so to speak. Going out with a secret car in a city, producing film and photos, it's risky. It's very expensive to produce a prototype to take on location, all these things. And I've been doing that before as a photographer, and I know I had a very good idea how difficult it is to actually get a shot under those circumstances. So CGI was a very, very strong alternative for those projects. So we started focusing on those things, going more digital, less print advertising and TV, being more, web-based, and the launches being shown in the net first, became more relevant for the client. So we kept pushing into that area, and that's about, classical 80-20 things. So 80% of our project are launches.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's such an interesting, I didn't really think about that. You can't secretly film, you're in New York. Where are you going to be, on the Lower East Side or something like that? Yeah. And no one's going to know, and that's not going to happen.
The solution for that is the backlots in LA, where they film, where they do the street scene, outdoor scenes, but it is, it's like 100 yards Lower Manhattan, 50 yards financial district. So you run out of shots pretty quickly.
Wow.
And that was one of the solutions, for the city.
And I could imagine that the brands are super happy about the price tag. You don't have to fly them out to, Death Valley. You don't have to fly them out to South Africa, or something like that. Some really beautiful place. So talking specifically about the tech, and just speaking about the versatility and efficiency of CGI in automotive marketing, what are some previous creative barriers that have been replaced, and what are maybe barriers that are coming? You know, after we adopt this tech, we're using CGI. What's another creative barrier that might be happening?
Well, the creative barriers that we have, CGI is able to take down is obviously when you're on set, you're dependent on weather, on what the light is, time of year, all these things. So the sun is not very patient with you, right? It'll move on. And let's say a very classical car light is what we call magic hour. It's just when the sun is just set and you have this beautiful light in the desert. Very, very nice. 20 minutes.
Get it together, get in places. Grab the camera.
Yeah, but it's like, that's the way it used to be. So you would do a project and the location will work either in the morning or in the evening, right? Because you need to have the light in a certain position. A secret for the photographers out there: when you do magic hour for a car, take the sunset behind you, the car will look better. Yeah. But that only happens once a day in a certain direction, right? Depending on where you want to look.
Right.
So, but this is the way it was. This is one shot a day. Thank you.
Right. Yeah.
Right. That changed a bit with digital photography. People were, taking more shots, but still, you're always limited by, can you get the car there? How many shots can you, manage to get in the can in the given time? Compared to that, in CGI, if you say, here's the sunset, it's there. It's waiting for you as long as you need,
Wow.
And that helps to raise the quality of the output because you can establish the angle, do a preview render, send it to the client. When the client takes 2 days to decide, but in a launch situation, what we usually experience is that C-level is involved. Because, when something is launched these days more than before, they like to present it, CEO or some C-level person is on stage. And they stop doing too many of the car shows. They tend to do their own shows, like Apple, right? Apple is the lead. Everybody follows that lead. So they have their own presentations and, showcase cars. If you're a CEO, you're presenting a new car, there's a picture behind you, you want to know what it is.
Yeah, ideally, you would like to know. You just put me in front of anything. He's in front of it. So that's amazing. So those are some of the barriers that have been removed. But what do you think are some of the barriers headed towards us as we're using more CGI, more tech? What could possibly be a barrier there?
Similar to all the technology being utilized, is that people underestimate that they still have to think and do and decide. And interestingly, more so, the easier the technology is. Because a couple of years ago, it took us quite a long time to render a preview. So, you need to decide a lot of things beforehand and be kind of careful with the render power you want to utilize. Now that is much easier, the risk is sloppiness. Right? You overshoot it. You just put tons of stuff on the table. And we briefly touched on that, Midjourney, ChatGPT. I'm using Jasper, which used to be Jarvis. It's very helpful, but still, I need to get the suggestions. I need to make the decision. And then if you keep clicking, give me more output, then you have 25 things. It's like, okay, this is too much. It's, overpowering you. So taking a breath, thinking, what do I really want? And then talking to the machine, whichever machine. I think that is important, but people get carried away with the options.
Oh,
And
that's
sometimes I feel they just take the last one because they burned out.
well, and it's an odd thing in music.
Yeah.
Usually the first take is the best.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed with a lot of the AI stuff, it's usually the last one because you've put it through all the motions. But I was using Midjourney for a project, and I had like 70 different versions of a thing, and my brain stopped because I was like, well, they're all okay, individually, but what are you looking for? And I had to keep going back to like, what do you want to see? Because you're gonna be able to create 700, 800 different versions of something. And in an industry where people are like, your deck is too big, advertising decks too big, pitch decks too big, marketing decks too big, marketing briefs too large. Now you have tech that can give you thousands of things. And so you're so right that the barrier is a natural one. It isn't a technical one. All the technical stuff has solved for the technical barriers, but now we still have these kind of soft, wet human barriers. It'd be like, yo, you're going to be sloppy. If I'm not thinking and the tech does it for me, then you're not thinking, period. Exactly. Is that good? Question mark?
Well, I don't know if it's good, but it's interestingly, I don't know how it is, how it feels for you, but let's say, we have updates of computers, right? So
yes.
Obviously it's a very powerful thing.
Always.
So, the latest iteration guys are using, they have 128 gigabytes of RAM, all right? Before it was 64.
Yeah.
They feel the difference for about 4 weeks. That's it. Doesn't matter. Any update, 4 weeks. That's done. Then it's normal.
And you're back to square one in
normal.
A way. Right.
Yeah. Then it's like the new normal. So essentially people will be like, I need to copy fast. You expect things to happen faster. Is it better? Yeah. I don't know. Certain things are, I personally enjoy the whole, conference calling and all these things. We've been doing it before because we were working internationally before COVID. And people were like, oh, how does it work? Is it like this? Now everybody has used it. So it's cool. It would be great to meet you in person.
Right.
But then again, probably the microphones that we're using 10 years ago, you would have needed, basically sell your S class for if you have one, assuming.
Yes. Yeah, you need more things, but it makes it easier. But then there are these new barriers. And so before we get into my next question, I wanted you to talk about your city, this latest thing that you've been working on. So you've focused on car photography, automotive kind of CGI, and then you alighted on this concept that the setting is the key. And if we can get some kind of program, like talk to me about like why you created it, how it's going, what you're using. Just don't be afraid to get into the weeds.
Well, like we discussed before with the launches, you can imagine a launch, a secret car anywhere is being protected, right? There's like actual people, professional security people protecting the car from being photographed, right?
Wow.
I mean, there used to be 3 guys, and those 3 guys were, former German Green Beret, where you're like, okay, you guys, you're just watching a car, relax,
Put the knife down, Gunter. Calm down.
So, but this is that serious for the manufacturers, right? Because what they try to do is they try to control how the car is perceived when it's seen for the first time. They don't want some guy taking a picture walking by. So the city in those circumstances, like we discussed before, is the most difficult place to do that. And usually it's not being done because it's too risky.
Right.
On top of that, generally producing film and photo in a city is a highly complex endeavor, right? You need a lot of cops, you need to block off streets, you need permits. I would suggest to stay away from Boston because people in Boston are really nasty when you do that.
Well, we call them mass holes over here, so that might check.
They were really not friendly. Let's put it that way.
Sorry.
But so if you leave the standard production areas, LA, California, it's like it gets really difficult. And you say, oh, cool, Vancouver. I've been in Vancouver producing very nice people, by the way, but weather is bad.
Yeah? Yes, right.
So you have the city blocking streets, then you have bad weather, then you need to do the drives, you need professional drive. There's a lot of things you need to get under control to get a picture of film of a car in the city. Add on top of that the light thing that we just discussed.
Yeah.
And even if you say, no, in the city I want to shoot during daytime, right? Imagine New York. How long is this sun at that point where you get the light in the avenue? Not very long.
Not very long.
So taking all these things in consideration, it's like, okay, so full CG city is the holy grail of CG locations, let's say. And also it being photorealistic, contemporary, but not a copy of something. So when you look at Scope City, it looks New York-esque, but it's not New York, which also gives our clients the advantage there is no intellectual property rights being utilized. So you don't have to go to the building owner and get, permit from the building owner.
Oh, wow.
So you're free so you have the liberty there. The next thing is that in car, film, photo, like I described, so you have California, you have southern Spain, South Africa. Those are like the main hubs of production, meaning everybody's going to the same places. Everybody is shooting on the same locations. It's repetitive.
My gosh.
And then you look, at very cool modern places. So BMW is there one day, Lexus is there the next day.
Mm-hmm.
The moment the clients find out, they're like, wow, why is my car in front of the BMW? It's like, what's going on, right?
Wow.
It's not fun. But when you book the location, you cannot say this is only for Lexus. They're like, yeah, I can have that if you pay me 5 years of royalties. You can do that, right? But nobody does that.
Yeah.
So we going CG, we can offer, custom IP rights. We can just say, okay, this location is for this brand. We can create cities that live within their brand guidelines. Right? So let's say for a brand like Audi, which is very design style, right? You would create a different city than you would for I don't know, Tesla, say, right?
Right, or like Bentley or something. Like, would you want to use like older architecture, maybe in a legacy brand, and modern architecture, maybe for something newer? So cool.
So you can be very precise about those things, and so we started having these conversations because we published Scope City almost a year ago, November 22. But what the team has managed to create, what's fascinating, if anybody has time to go to the website and look at the tech demo, is it is a tool. So it's a machine. It is not one city. It is, you can have different street layouts and it will create a city for you. You can mix the buildings differently. So there is a lot of, I'm sorry, different people we started talking to, from people thinking about using it for creation of synthetic data to Hollywood people who say, oh wow, that tool we would like to license it. So I'm very proud of my team. Yeah.
No way. So have you been
Hollywood?
Have you been have you been approached by studios?
Yeah.
It's so brilliant. I mean, if you are making a movie, you're either going to be going to the video game industry for tech. But it's interesting to see that advertising and marketing is providing tools up chain to media.
For us, it's an up chain as well, but it's such a specific area, and we invested an incredible amount of time. I mean, COVID obviously was one of the reasons we had the time. We said, okay, let's, we focus the team on doing that, have a nice goal, keep working on it. We needed it for our own projects. Obviously, it's a competitive advantage, but after we published a tech demo, we had a lot of contacts with, from even gaming studios, Hollywood studios, VFX studios, obviously directly competing companies as well. But we said, well, if this is the thing, let's open it up, because how many jobs can we do, right? Ourselves. We're a small crew. And it's such a great tool. And it's so great that other people want to use it. Obviously, it's great when they pay money for it.
Yeah, well.
But also it feels good because we've been there, right? You have a client, it's a launch project, like, I need a city, and you scramble, build it from stock photos and some random modeling and try to get by somehow, just make the shot go away. If you have a location, you license it, you go, wow, I can take a great shot. I can light as I please. You're not trying to make the location invisible. Sometimes focus on other stuff. So location is not so important. We can share with other studios an asset where they can be like, okay, I can do whatever I want. They can still go backlit and dark and do all that, but you can rely on the asset. So the input is very strong.
So that's so amazing. Now, how the hell do you are you filming the actual car driving somewhere on a green screen lot, or is it on like a treadmill? Like how do you put the car in the fake place? Is the car real? It's fake.
No,
everything's it's fake. I'm sorry, I said CG.
It's called digital twin.
Of course, there's a cool technical term
name for it.
it's a very serious thing. No, so you do it all in the computer?
Yes.
So wow.
And that is the advantage, it's like what you described was one of the workflows where you say, oh, let's shoot the car, drop in the background. Let's, create the background in CG and take the photographed or filmed car. Obviously, bringing two worlds together, always difficult, right? So if it's in one world, the easiest way to explain it, we're doing photorealistic video games. Imagine that, right? That's it.
Easy. That's much more easy to explain, because I was thinking, like, how do you do? And then what about texture, like dirt or things coming off of it, like atmospheric stuff? Like you can add that all in post. You want a little glint, you want a little motes of dust or some whatever.
Yeah, can. What we tend to do is we try to get it in camera. So that's an interesting difference in our philosophy, going back to, because I started shooting before Photoshop.
Right.
You have to get it in camera.
Right.
And CGI allows us to get it in camera. So if you say, okay, I want a dust trail, obviously somebody needs to simulate the dust trail, but then you have the car, the dust trail, the light, and you render one picture. So you don't have to compose it. You can always compose it because you have masks more than you can imagine, right? But we tend not to use them. We try not to use them.
Yeah.
Mainly because I don't understand it really.
Well, and for something that somebody's going to pay attention to for 12 seconds, 30 seconds. If you were doing like a full feature length thing, you would probably dig into those details. But here's my question, and I'd be interested. It's just an open kind of conversation, but in surveys, advertising is one of the least trusted professions in the eyes of consumers. And so I'm wondering, does CGI build trust with an audience, or does it break it down?
Ideally, you don't see it's CGI. So CGI is not, if you see it's CGI, then it's bad CGI.
Well, it's so crazy. Like we have to appreciate where we're coming from. Like practical effects, like that. Those were very, cool miniatures. All the movies are using miniatures, those kind of things. Yeah. But when you look at them now, you can tell, but when it happened, blew our minds. We had no idea, so it's a little bit of magic. Maybe would you? Yeah. Is it really lying or is it magic?
Well, if it looks real, I posted something yesterday. I think if it looks real, it is real. Is it? Isn't it? Right? Because in the end, it's not about if CGI is real or not. If it's more, does the film, the photo, the campaign that you're publishing actually talk to your client and offer a solution for what they might be trying to solve? That's about it. Because you're not going to sell people stuff that they just don't need because the CGI looks so cool. They'll forget about the product. That's a given, right?
You bring up a good point, like stunning visuals. Does that help people remember the brand, or is it just something nice to look at?
I think if they're interested in the brand, yes. If it's something that you're, you like, for example, NinjaCat got me right away. I like ninjas. I like cats.
Yeah.
Do I need it? I don't know.
Well, it's too late, Faruk. You're here. We captured him. But you bring up a good point. That legacy brand, if you're seeing something from Audi or you're seeing something from Lexus, you have a sort of Porsche. That's has tons of IP with it, tons of legacy. So you kind of set your sights on something. So I love that. If it looks real, it's real. And I think we have become so accepting of CGI. I don't see it as subterfuge to use technology to bring advertising into the world. So that was expertly handled. I thought that was going to be more, but you just dropped the bomb on me. So here's some story time. Give us a story about working with a client where CGI boosted the whole thing into the stratosphere. And conversely, do you have a CGI horror story?
Well, I do not have a horror story. It's just
come on! Or you just masked
CGI it. CGI blew the campaign. Well, I did. Well,
I don't know. I blew it, but
talking to me anymore.
Well, maybe just something that you've seen, like, that CGI was just bad. Or have you ever heard of somebody using it in a way that was just disastrous? So tell me about a good moment where it went gangbusters, and then tell me about just some bad examples or things that you're like, ooh.
Well, CGI in advertising. For me personally, I think what I really enjoy seeing is I like animals. I also understand animals are very strong in advertising. Mm-hmm. And other studios, not us, do fantastic work with digital animals, which I think is fantastic because, you're not forcing some raccoon to do something they're not,
exactly.
born to do.
Yeah.
Still, you can tell a great story. You can have all the humor. When you have these fantastic animation artists with the light touch, and they really are good in telling the stories with body movements of an animal. That's magic to me. That they tell a human story with a goat or raccoon, I don't know, and not just comical, but very fine-tuned things. So
Right.
I think that is fascinating and taking it to another level. I have a very bad experience.
Yes.
Pharmaceuticals.
Okay.
And we don't do those anymore. But for a while, we looked into that market, and I'm not sure if you're aware of that. In America, pharmaceutical advertising is approved by the what is it? FDA,
I
FDA, right?
guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So the agencies, I mean, I don't know how much medical advertising you encounter.
To all the time. If you're in America, you are convinced that you have some weird thing. Maybe this pill, maybe this shot can help me from reoccurring. I have no idea what I have. Yeah, no, that's a very American thing.
But so there is, the concepts they come up with. It's, I don't know if that's okay to say, but it's like Midjourney and crystal meth. It's really, really, really not good.
No, it isn't
And
good.
weird
CGI ain't gonna make it better.
dangerous. And they use CGI to do it. I'm hoping they move to Midjourney by now. But it's so that CGI's rap doesn't get worse. So I think this is an area where CGI is but just being misused quite a bit. But
how? So wait, explain that. Like, what is? Are they? Is it the locations that they're in? Is it the people that they're with? Is it like, how is CGI being used in pharmaceuticals? It's just,
well, it's like, oh, hang on. What was it? It was like, okay, so absolutely not my side. It was some medical thing for a uterus, right?
okay.
So you call it car dude company. So we're like, okay, okay. And
Makes sense.
it was, I don't want to say it was speaking, but something like that. So it was really, well, the wrong meds, I would say. Right. So you have a uterus, it does something, you need to visualize. And we didn't get the job, by the way. I think our pitch didn't really pan out. But
I could just imagine spending weeks on the character, the uterus character, and you'd be like, well, is it a fun uterus? Like, is it, what is it? Is it a serious one? Or is this like, what are we talking about? So Faruk, so what'd you just walk into the pitch thing and you were like, yo, we have to stop.
We have to stop. We have to get out.
We're done. We're done.
That was a call to my agent. I'm like, you're not taking those calls anymore because I cannot, I'm not
participating. No, it's all good.
Call about that.
I'm cool. But I love that you're talking about animals. I mean, and that you bring up another good barrier that has been broken is getting a horse on set, getting a horse trainer, maybe getting a couple horses because one of them gets tired, and you don't have to worry about that no more. Like, and it seems like we're headed towards a more conscientious, efficient, maybe not as draining on resources, but have you noticed that has all the tech reduced the amount of budget that brands are willing to give? Like, I get that they want to be efficient, they want to do it for a nice sticker price, but is that reducing their propensity to push and distribute ad campaigns? Like, does the technical price tag being so low, they're like, well, we don't really need to blow this campaign out of the water. Have you ever seen that?
Well, I think, what we see happening more, it's much more precise and targeted. Instead of
the digital
whole thing. I don't know. Half of the money is I don't know who said it.
Wasted, and I don't know which half. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So these days, I only obviously where would I take a magazine ad? But when we do marketing, we do LinkedIn mainly.
Right.
And on my own, I can figure out, oh, did it work? Did it not work? These people clicked on it. These people didn't click on it. So it's more about, to have enough manpower to follow up and have the conversations. But, and what we see in the car market, fairly slow, if you ask me, based on the available technology. But, the car manufacturers could be very precise about which car they show you to buy, right? Because they have a pretty good idea which car color you like because you clicked on it or you bought one before. They could do that. And for example, in Europe, it's more common to order your car. So you go into a configurator, you click it. So essentially, every time you do that, you give them your preferences. Right? It's like doing a pre-order. The system recognizes it. In America, the car buying experience is different. You want to go into a dealership and buy it.
Right.
But to my understanding, and there might be different companies and different levels of precision on that, is they're not saying, oh, let's look at the data from the web, what the people are clicking on, what they like, which colors are popular, and then we call the factory and say, oh, we need 5,000 more white cars because usually in May we sell white cars in Florida.
So weird.
They just they're like, oh, how many did we sell last year? Or essentially, the manufacturer is selling to the dealership.
Right.
They're very big in America, right? So they're the main clients, not the final consumer.
Wow, interesting.
So they kind of basically say, oh, what do we think? International, Asian car manufacturers like, oh, well, we think, we're sending 150,000 cars. Let's make 20 white, 50 yellow. They seem to be doing it like it, which is crazy. Random, because in the American market, as far as car sales are concerned, the most important number that everybody's looking at is time on lot, they call it. How long is the car sitting on the lot before you can sell it? And I know that because we had conversations with people who do specifically car dealer advertising and do assets for that. And what happens, some smart car dealers, what they're doing is they're like, oh, I know there is like 10 cars on the truck, and I know this color, that color is coming. So they get CG rendered cars before the cars arrive. So they don't have to take pictures of the car and the interiors and all these things, but because they know the configuration of the car. And some manufacturers supply them with images or a system where they can click and say, okay, I have the red Mustang with those rims and blue leather. And then they get the pictures, which they can use to market locally in Facebook, Instagram, target you. And say, oh, look, Jake, red Mustang with blue seats is, sounds like your kind of thing.
You got me to a T, Faruk.
So, but they could start marketing the car before it's on lot, right?
So cool.
So the moment it comes, if everything goes well, they already have 2, 3, 10 clients customers wanting to buy the car, waiting for a test drive.
Right.
So the moment it comes, they sell it, and then that's the biggest win a dealership can have.
Wow.
Very little time on lot.
Right. Wow. Oh my gosh, it's just so amazing. And then it made me think, what was my question? It was brilliant too. Oh boy. I was stunned at my brilliance, but now I forgot what it was. God damn it. Here it is.
Yeah.
Do you work with dealerships? Would a dealership need to do this, or are they using the creative that's given to them by the brand? That's basically how that works.
Exactly. At this point, that's what they're doing. But what happens is, we have the conversations, didn't have the project yet, but also looking at the American market, obviously you have very different regions, very classic, and it's called localization. This is what is requested. It's one level higher than hyper personalization, let's say. That's the ideal situation. But
right.
So localization is that the dealerships in Florida, or the big dealerships, are saying, guys, it's great pictures, but why do I have to look at California all the time? I mean, it's
Interesting.
Florida, you know,
right?
where's the palm trees? Where
Right.
is, you know, like where is the white beaches? Whatever it might be, they consider to be very Floridarian. Is that a word?
Yeah, well, it is now. But I could imagine somebody in Texas feeling that way.
Yeah.
Somebody in like Seattle
Minnesota.
or Oregon, Minnesota. There you go. I mean, very distinct regions, looks, you know, the Badlands of, you know, Nebraska or South Dakota or whatever.
Right.
You know, you'd want that. So you can do that with your city thing or no?
We could do that. But what happens right now is a lot of dealerships, you know, go to their local advertising agency and they produce some film and photos themselves, which then again, the main brand
has to sign off,
or they need to go along, and they like it, they don't like it, you know. So it's, for the big brand, it's always risky.
Yes.
You know? Especially in the times of internet, if somebody is not so appropriate, let's say.
Yeah. They put a talking uterus in a Jeep. But how did it learn how to drive?
FDA approved, that's what we should do.
But no, I was talking to somebody in automotive marketing and how serious Jeep is about their logo, about the look, the color, the type of green, the font that you're using. Like, you just can't go out there and make ads. You better get it signed off. And so that's interesting that you're just navigating this amazing place. But here's a question. If we're just talking to the Joe and Jane marketer, maybe they do automotive, maybe they don't, maybe it's products, maybe it's services or something. Can you talk about the visual aspects of advertising? I mean, it's basically a visual medium in itself. You know, you see something and then you hear something, there's audio, but the look is so critical. So can you just like talk about like the look and maybe some tips for people who are maybe doing some photography or something and they're frustrated? Should they be using CGI? Should they hone their, you know, straight photography skills first and then level up? Or like, what's your thoughts just on getting that visual tight?
I think getting the visual tight, like with, you know, these days, it's very easy to get decent typography, right? We just take it for granted.
Yeah.
When I started a long time into my career, the Brits, they're kind of Brits, right? They had typographers.
Yes.
They kept them. The Germans didn't, but they kept them because, you know, how you set a type is very important.
Right.
But also that it's not important if you do it in a computer, or you do it by hand. It is, you need to learn the craft. But with the new tools, it's like the writing for me with Jasper just makes my life easier. You know, it's like my grammar is bad and I'm using Grammarly or something like that. It keeps telling me constantly I should work on my commas. And I'm like, why should I? You're doing it for me. It's fine. You know?
I also use a lot of commas, so I hear you. And I also stopped using Hemingway because of that. I was like, it's there for a reason.
But it's also with the visual. So I trust and I know that many people have a very clear visual output that they're after, but most of them struggle and get frustrated by the craft and the process. That using CGI to learn, I think, expedites it. And I would suggest not getting into the Maya and Unreal. There's a software called Substance 3D, which belongs to Adobe.
Okay.
The Photoshop world, and Photoshop is getting more and more of those tools, but
right.
Extended it so they have objects that we use them for materials. It's a fantastic material authoring system. It's a professional thing, the way to call it. But they also have a studio in there. You can try lights. The render engine is very good. If you're doing product stuff, right? Let's, like you said, let's
Right.
assume you're selling NinjaCat food.
Sure. Tasty. FDA approved.
So you need, your nice renders and nice pictures of your cat, right? So it's then you could generate images with the Substance Studio, maybe they call it, I don't know,
Right.
State, and experiment with it. You have the same advantage that I was mentioning with the sunset before.
Right.
The light stay. If you imagine you need to, create a tabletop, create lights, put it up, By the time, you're done, you go to bed, the cat comes and just breaks everything down.
Right.
So it's, you have this advantage of stopping time while you're working. I think that is the biggest advantage of 3D.
It's so amazing. And I think you're right. And similarly in music, if you wanted to write with people, they'd have to be in the room together. Everybody's tuned up. You're like, okay, let's take this. But when you're in a digital audio workstation, you can pause time, sit on things, really dig into the levels and all those things. And of course, you're bringing all your compositional skills to this, and that helps. But you bring up a good point, is that you can use the tech to create those craft, that skill set, which is so smart. And I think a lot of people are using the tech as an output and maybe not an input. And so maybe there's something
you need to learn the craft. Exactly. You put it very well. And it's again also the fact that back in the day, I was there back in the day. It was not so great.
Well, I mean, thinking about, the Beatles and listening to their music and how many dimensions there are. They only had a 4-track, and they would record and splice and cut and paste actuals on the tape. And it was a nightmare, and now you can do that whenever GarageBand pull it up. I can do it on my phone, which might end up, maybe this is what and then I'll get to my last question. But do you think that the overemphasis of tech and the output of CGI ends up cheapening the reality that we're trying to get people to participate in? Like if it's all CGI music, AI music, CGI background, CGI actors, are we risking putting reality on the side?
It's a very interesting question, but that suggests that, in advertising, film, TV, before was reality, which it was not.
And it wasn't.
It wasn't. And this is, what is always driving me somewhat crazy in these conversations. Like, but if you go there and it's real and it's that. And I said, okay, I've been on sets. I had cars basically towed away because they were in my shot. It was bad reality for that guy. It's so what is real? So essentially, whatever you do, the moment you film or photograph something, record in music, I assume, is you make an edit, right? It's an edit. It must be an edit. There is no way it's not an edit, right? So you make a choice. And if before Photoshop, as a photographer, you had to get it right in camera, meaning you had to prepare more, think more, do more. We're just slower.
Mm-hmm.
That was the biggest difference, because somebody had to say, oh yeah, the cup of coffee and the still life is here, and there's the pen, and the light comes from here, and somebody had to sign off on it. And then you press the button. The idea that this split second was magical, no. We're not talking about documentary photography, although there also.
That's not real.
It is real, but it is a interpretation, it's an edit, it's a slice of reality, right? And whether you do it with real reality that you manipulate as long as you can until you get what you want, right? Wait for the sunset.
Yep.
Or you do it in CG. It really depends on what you want to create. And then the next thing is obviously if you're professionally producing work is your client needs to show it on Instagram on a print ad, 9 to 16, 16 to 9. Da, da, da. They need the space where they put copy. They
Yep.
need a space where they put copy in Japan because it's on the left side.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like there's a lot of realities that you need to address and serve to so that the asset that you produce professionally becomes valuable for the client.
So
and then
good.
The happy accidents and you name it. You know, I was like, yeah, I've been assisting. I've been shooting myself. I don't recall a client saying, "Oh, that was a nice happy accident. Can I print it?" I don't know. It's just, you know, it's something you talk between you and the creative director. Yeah, that was so cool. It's an urban myth of creativity that the happy accident made it into something. I haven't seen it. I'm happy to if somebody wants to prove me wrong, I'll look at it. I'll say yes, but I haven't experienced.
But it goes to the original question of reality. You know, it's like regardless of if it was filled with happy accidents or a bunch of pre-planning or a bunch of tech, it is a slice, it is an edit, it is not a real thing. So
it is a real thing, but it's a choice of reality that you want to communicate.
And I was talking to somebody the other day. I was like, it's weird how, you know, the concept of reality, like there is one where it really is shared interpretations, different delusions, different information, different directions. Then you consensus this, and then maybe that is reality. But even then, there's no objective place where we can all come. It's a consensus of different opinions and stuff. So in some way, CGI is just sort of perfecting how quote unquote reality is and giving you the tools to position it, frame it, add the perspective, add the dimension that brings people in. And whereas before you had to really hope that the weather was good, really hope that the driver wasn't sick, really hope that the, you know, assistant principal person was holding the light meter and damn it, Dan, why? You know, I mean, you don't have to worry about that no more.
Yeah, you have different worries, but it's like,
yeah.
You know,
new worries. Don't worry. Farouk's here to remind you. Oh, there's new worries.
Oh yeah, it's like, you know, now it's like, oh, you have enough RAM? Does it render fast? You know, it's like, you know, but it is in the end, it is like you said, it's, you know, the version of reality that you want to communicate, because also we're, you know, telling a story, we're telling a visual story. It might not be the most extraordinary Hollywood story we're telling, but you know, you're saying, oh, here's a car, and this is a good car for XYZ, right? And look, this is what your life could look like.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Because if we wanted really reality, we would be taking pictures of cars and dark parking structures, you know?
Just sitting there.
Just sitting there, exactly.
That's really what's happening. And I in all the car commercials, the cars are whizzing, driving, whoosh, 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 and you're just like, "Yo, man, you might just be having that in a parking lot, and that's it." But yeah, it's a depicted reality that people can kind of see themselves in, and that's how advertising works. I mean,
yeah. But isn't it? I mean, in advertising, in sales, you know, to the point of sleazy, I wanted to get back to that. Is like also salespeople are considered to be very sleazy, which is very. It's not our subject, I know, but it's. I've been reading about stuff lately. It's funny because the advertising / sales is, if you don't have that, you have nothing. If you don't sell it, what is it? It's like a therapy. What are you doing? You do it for yourself. I mean, somebody needs to go out and say, oh, look, this is, client doesn't have to buy it, but you can say, oh, this is CGI. This is what you could do. And this is what you can achieve. And this is how your life is going to get better. right? And this is what car advertising does. It's like, yeah, you're going to be able to move from left to right. You're going to be able to make sure your children are safe. You're going to, your car is going to have a date. I don't know, maybe you're in the date as well, but your car is having one for sure. So what are you selling, right?
Yes.
So you're selling idea of a positive outcome. And this is and to do that, you have to be the master of the story.
Yes.
It might be you have to be the master of music, you have to be the master of light, you have to be the master of
visual
spoken word, which we don't do. We only do cars whizzing around. But essentially, you as a musician, with the music, you can set the tone.
Yes.
I get to watch all the Star Wars stuff because I have 4 sons, right? And the smallest one is 10.
Nice.
Don't ask me anything about that world, but it's I have to say the music in all the Disney, The Mandalorian, I watched Obi-Wan, all these things.
Yeah, Andor, all those. Yeah.
And Andorra, I haven't seen it, but the music is incredibly good.
So good.
Better than picture, if you ask me.
The Mandalorian theme song, when I heard that, I was like, wow.
That's cool.
That's cool. And then you look up who wrote it. It's like Goran, some Nordic
guy
dude
with a volcano name that's about to explode.
But I love it because it's got like guitar. Awesome. It's got a Western kind of spaghetti feel. But I mean, so yes, I agree. And once again, music amping up what you see, making visuals more appealing, drawing you into the story. It's all in here, and advertisers get to participate in a minute way with these stories. And so I guess last question, what if you had to give the audience, this has been amazing. I have loved this interview. Please look up Faruk, follow him on LinkedIn, go to the Scope, check out the City Tool. But if you had to condense everything you said, brilliant in this interview, into one thing, what would your one piece of advice to the audience be about harnessing the power of visual impact in marketing?
Well, control your reality probably would be what I would want to say. Yeah.
And break it out. It's maybe a couple pieces of advice. Control your reality, but how do you prepare for your reality? Like what do you mean?
If we just think about visuals, I would encourage the audience to definitely not look at trends too much. Of course, it depends which company, which position, all these things. Mm-hmm. If there's an established visual world, you need to stick with it. You cannot throw it out the window, right? But if it's for people in the audience say, well, I want to up my game in creating visuals myself or understanding visuals, it definitely helps to look at what you like first, and then try to make a collection of things you like. And then once you only look at the pictures where you say, oh, I like these pictures, then you learn what you like. It sounds very stupid what I'm saying, but it is. Most people don't do that, right? So you keep getting bombarded with images every day and you don't know why you like them. But if you know what your personal preferences are, that is the first step to start creating things yourself. And again, I believe today, starting with the telephone camera that everybody has, mm-hmm. to trying CGI, it's worth exploring visual worlds, because it is not like most people think, oh, you need to have a great camera, you need to do this, you need to do that. Everything happens automatically. You click on a filter. It would be nice to understand why you like the picture and the filter, right? Warm, cold, the contrast of it. It reminds you of a movie that you've seen. It reminds you of an album from your parents' house. I don't know, whatever it is. It looks soft, it looks hard. So, things say something about you. To take a look at that. And once you know what you like, it is so much easier to follow that and keep doing that, because again, in the marketing world, might be something else. And I am sure, or I can guarantee you, if you publish pictures on social, on LinkedIn is my social weakness.
Yep.
Because it's not as loud as Instagram, let's say, right?
Yes.
It's a different thing, but
less on fire than Twitter. Yeah.
It reaches, my audience, more visual.
Yeah.
But if you work on your, if you understand what you like personally, then it's easier to do an edit instead of just grabbing stock images. So even if you prompt into Midjourney, right? It is, do you prompt black and white?
It's a whole thing. If you
set a tone with that.
But
that is very important.
It's so interesting to hear you land on this idea of trends versus taste. And I'm like, whoa, that is weird, because marketers tend to jump on trends, jump on the latest thing, jump on I don't know if you've been seeing these rebrands, but they're like, ditch the cursive, get some like really boring sans serif thing and just crispify it. And you're like, oh, why Burberry, brought their logo back, which is great. But you can see that people are copying each other into these homogenous worlds, where if you just took a moment and said, why? What do you like? What is the contrast? What's the composition of the things that you like? Why do you like those things? Most people don't do that. They just get inundated with stuff, and they don't even have time to figure out why or what they like about those things.
And visuals, like you said, it's such a huge part of our life.
Oh, huge. Has
been. And being able to use visuals to your own advantage, also for your personal career. Not every career is personal, I guess, right? Which starts with your profile picture. I think this is something that I watch a lot look at a lot when I see profile pictures. It's the most important thing, because that's your logo. Think about it. That is your logo. And people who change their profile pictures constantly are confusing me. I'm not, but the picture I have, I was like, but now I'm sticking to it, because I don't know how how you feel, but you see posts, you see the picture. It's the logo.
It's association.
Logo, profile picture.
Yep. Association. You have to have a strong association with the brand.
Yeah. So, spend time thinking about that. People might have the right image to begin with, but I think this is when you change careers, that might be a good moment to change your profile picture. When you're a marketer at Right law firm, right? And you move to NinjaCat food distribution, for example.
So I want everybody to know NinjaCat does not sell cat food. I think we will sell cat food eventually. We do data management, but boy, I'm wondering if we could get some cat food going on.
You know what? Now that would, this is one of my. I'll give you one of my favorite great ideas I've never executed on.
Cough it up.
So, I'm pretty new to the podcast guesting thing, but I had always, we do tutorials for people in the team. So somebody finds something out and they need to do a tutorial so somebody can. Somebody else can do it for clients. So I think there should be a Curious Cat tutorial series. Okay. So where you have a CG cat, do tutorials about everything. You can do photography, you can do cooking. But wouldn't people watch that?
I would absolutely watch a cat tell me how to.
how to clean your dishwasher.
I'm done. It's perfect. And
Yeah,
then
because
if you're
that's-
fighting with your wife about something, you could just say, well, this
That's the
cat
cat.
has some. I could just see that being maybe
right.
the cause of
Okay.
some great marriages and maybe some divorces. I
But since
love
we're off
that.
camera, we could cat this thing here, right?
Yeah, we should totally. I would love to be a cat. So amazing. I am so thrilled that you joined me today. And this seriously has been an epic conversation. I think we found some really enlightening moments, deep questions, awesome tech. You have such a wonderful finish about how you approach this thing. You're not overly technical, but you're not underly. You're just right in the middle. And it's a wonderful Goldilocks of a time we had here. But if people want to learn more about you and connect online, Faruk, how can they do that?
Please go to www.thescope.studio, which is a very cool URL. And you can find me on LinkedIn under my name, Faruk Heplevent. There's also the Scope page that I'm sure you can find, but I'm more chatty than the Scope page.
Cheese or chocolate?
Chocolate, are you ready?
I always have to choose one.
Yeah. Yes. Are you going to play the game?
No, I'm playing. Let's play. Let's go.
Okay, here we go. Playing the game. Cheese or chocolate?
Chocolate.
Are you sure? Yeah. Okay. Modern or classic art?
Modern.
Quiet night at home or out on the town?
Quiet night at home.
I know. I was like, what am I thinking? Everybody wants to stay at home. Practical effects in movies or CGI?
Wow, CGI.
Oh, I mean, you like a good puppet every once in a while. You want to see a puppet, right?
Oh, I'm not I'm scared of Pinocchio. You're not?
No, I mean, I guess I could.
I like the Muppet Show. Okay, Muppet Show.
Okay, Muppets. Pinocchio, no. Muppets, yes.
Yes.
Moving on. Jazz or classical?
Jazz.
Totally, man. I can feel it.
Baker, dude.
It's vibing. It's wafting off of you. Us jazz people, we know our types. All right, and finally, first to arrive or last to leave?
Last to leave.
Nice. You're in it for the long haul, man. It's last call, and Faruk is still here.
What Gets Measured is a NinjaCat podcast. Please rate and review the show wherever you find your podcasts. Share this episode on social and visit us on the web at ninjacat.io.